What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another edition of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. We got a great show, a great returning guest. We're going to be jumping into week 2 in the matchup we're going to have with the Chargers and talk all things Titans. As always, Sammy, why don't you start me up?
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans! He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
What is going on, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. I'm joined by my co-host, Jarrett. We have an excellent guest for today's show to help us roll on into week 2. No pun intended on the roll there. So let's bring him in there. Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans Podcast. Tyler, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. And honestly, pun intended. That was a perfect segue. Yeah. I always say I keep it rolling. It's on the birth certificate. But yeah, excited to come in. I know week 1 wasn't great, but the season's begun and I'm going to keep optimism high.
Yeah. So, I think the first question for you, and it's always great when we have a fellow fan on the show because it's easier to relate with someone who shares, the same love for the Titans as we do. So I ask you, Tyler, as a fan, I guess the best way to put this is as far as what is the percentage of leash that is left on Ryan Tannehill's leash? Is it 10%? Do you still have the whole length? How much got taken away after that loss?
I think that we need to look at the last time a quarterback got benched and Mike Vrabel was the head coach. And we look back at what happened with Marcus. And 6 games, right? A third of the season, basically. You got to give him an opportunity. And my thing is, I'm looking at if they're 2-4 and they're 1-5, something like that, coming back from the trip to Baltimore. The Titans have the bye in week 7 after they come back from London from playing the Ravens in week 6. So it makes it the perfect time. You put in the rookie immediately at starting out bye week, let him get comfortable, a full week of practice. You get the second week of practice where he's actually game planning for the next game, and which I think is against the Colts, I believe, or it might be the Falcons in week 8.
The Falcons,
Falcons after the bye.
That's right, the Oiler. Right. That's the Oiler uni game.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be very interesting for that reason.
A slap in the face too.
I know, right? I think that week 6 game against the Ravens, if the Titans fall in that one and their record's 2-4 or 1-5, and the thing is, it's not just the record. Ryan Tannehill has to be playing poorly like he did in week 1. I mean, he's obviously capable. So it's not outrageous to think that he might play poorly. I mean, honestly, the Browns defense could be better. The Bengals defense, Lou Anarumo has the Titans number. He knows exactly what they're going to do at all times. Maybe it changes with Tim Kelly, but I'm just saying the Saints defense was good. Their secondary was good, but I didn't think their interior defensive line was that great. Outside of Cam Jordan, they didn't have a lot of edge rush pressure to make it difficult. The Titans are going to see better defenses in the coming weeks, maybe not this week, but in the coming weeks. So Tannehill could play poorly again. And if he plays poorly multiple times like this and has turnovers, which will really make Mike Vrabel angry, if he does that and the record's bad, then after that bye, it's time to go. But I got to be honest, just what I would do isn't really important. What I think Mike Vrabel will do no matter what is wait 6 weeks. But should it get shorter? I think it should, because that was terrible and the turnovers are impossible to win. If you're going to have a dude out there making a bunch of turnovers, let it be one of the young guys so they can at least get better, right? I understand that thought process. So maybe the leash should get shorter, but do I think it will with Vrabel? No, I don't.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there is a leash at one point, but it is preseason week 4, in my opinion. You know, the first week, especially September. If you get out 2-2, you're great. We talked about it last week. But in the preseason, especially with a new offensive coordinator, you have a brand new offensive line and you have a brand new wide receiver. Like Aaron Rodgers did in the preseason, you have to get out there and get some snaps. I don't give a shit who you are. You're not Joe Burrow. You're not Patrick Mahomes. You're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not, Tom Brady back in the day. You have to play the preseason, especially Ryan Tannehill. So, Sammy, you got those clips up of Ryan Tannehill with a couple missed throws that we have over here. I just want to break this down with Tyler really quick. I believe this is the one
Plenty of
to
footage to cover here.
Yeah, stop it right there, Sammy, if you can. If you bring it back, he was at the 45-yard line. If Tajay Spears comes and he drills him right there at the 50, that's a touchdown. I don't know why he's throwing lollipops and letting his receiver go, because Tajay Spears came and dragged to the sideline. If he hit him on a dime right there, it's a touchdown. I don't know. Years past when he had A.J. Brown and he had Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, those throws are touchdowns. I don't know if it's aging with him. I don't know if it was week one. Sammy, roll the other one with Chig. And another thing is he's a statue in the pocket. Yeah, he plants his foot. If he bring it back right there, instead of throwing a lollipop, if you should make this throw,
Jarrett. If
you zing it in there, it's a touchdown. That's 2 touchdowns off the board that Ryan Tannehill used to make. He doesn't make it anymore. So it's very concerning going into the later half of the season. I'm a big Ryan Tannehill fan. Sal will tell you, Vinny will tell you, I love him. I don't want to give up on him yet, but he took a lot off of my plate as a fan right now. And I said 50% I have left on him for this season, because we cannot live with that for the rest of the year with the championship caliber defense and the offensive weapons that we have on this team right now. So what are your thoughts on that? His mobility in the pocket, him missing throws early. Do you think he's going to capitalize on that? You think he's going to, improve in week 2? Because in my opinion, it's a must-win game in Nashville.
Well, I think honestly, the cause of the overthrows is the uncertainty in the arm strength. Earlier in the game on the second interception where he had Chig wide open on the crosser, on the deep cross, on the play action.
Yeah, that was,
and he went to
Chris Moore,
he
right?
went to Chris Moore deep. Yeah, correct. He underthrew Chris Moore. If you're going to go to Chris Moore there, he had a cornerback in his back pocket. If you're going to get that to Chris Moore, it has to be out in front of Chris Moore. He can run full speed and let it come into his hands as a basket catch. And Tannehill underthrew it. And if you look back, Chris Moore is literally turning around and trying to stop and backpedal so he can go back to the underthrow. Tannehill probably thought in his head, oh, I've been missing all day on my long throws. I got to put this out there. And on both those throws, I think he's thinking in his head, I got to get this out here. I was short on a couple of early ones, and now he's overthrown it because he's uncertain of what his arm's capable of. He's losing some athleticism. He's regressing as an athlete, and he's 35 years old. So it's bound to happen. So he's out there like, wait, I usually am able to make these throws and I'm not. Okay, I do got to put a little more on this than I think I have to, because I'm not certain if my arm can make it. I don't know. Earlier, I was confused by what I did, and then he overthrows it. So I think that those two overthrows are actually a symptom of his uncertainty and his arm strength right now, because he's declining physically. And that's just what it is. I think people like LeBron James and Tom Brady, that they've made us think that every athlete that we see is going to be good until they're 40 now. It's just not the case, And some of the mistakes that Tannehill made, not those two examples, but some of the mistakes Tannehill made, in my opinion, the majority of the mistakes that he made in the game were misreads, just not making the right decision based on what the defense is giving him. And he can fix those. But stuff like what we're talking about with the arm strength, the mobility in the pocket, 10-man Tannehill bouncing into his own offensive lineman like bumper cars because he's scared of taking a hit, that's not going to get better throughout the season. That's going to get worse as he takes more hits.
Where is that mobility that he used to have in 19 and 20?
He's 35. And the ankle injury too.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just the reality of his athletic state right now. And maybe it's week 1 and truly all of it is just rust. And his old bones, I say that he's 35, I'm 32, and I'm calling him like he's some old man or something. But, it's all within the NFL concept here. But at the end of the day, I don't know if those things get better and he knocks rust off there, reading the defense and being quicker and progressing through his reads faster. I think all that'll happen, and that'll help. But some of the stuff he's always relied on, his arm strength, that mobility to not really scramble around, like he's not Mike Vick or Malik being quick and moving around, but he can at least like find a seam and then hit it and run straight. Even that sort of stuff might be regressing a little bit. And the thing about Tannehill was he needed that stuff, that strong arm to fire it in no matter what, that mobility to at least get downhill and pick up yardage when you need to. He needed that to stay a competent quarterback and be in the top 16. Without that stuff, if that erodes, he's in the bottom 16. And at that point, he's no longer good enough to execute the team vision. And that's what I'm worried about. So I don't want to write him off just yet. I know it sounds like that, but at the end of the day, some of the stuff that is the problem, is not stuff that's going to get better because he's not getting younger. Even if he fixes some of the other stuff, it still might not be good enough to accomplish what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I also think that Tannehill's mobility was a smidge bit overrated throughout the years. He was never very elusive as a quarterback.
Exactly. Yes.
He's a guy that if you gave him about 8 inches and he was able to see it, he could take it for a little bit.
Right.
But anytime he was rolling out and he was taking off on the run, it always looked like his wheels weren't catching the surface. And he was just kind of like, smoke was coming off, but he couldn't get going. But the bottom line is, at least he was able to evade a sack. Now he's not able to evade a sack at all. And in this league, you watch games every single day of the week, and you see these quarterbacks spin around outside of pressure. You see them juking guys out. I mean, really, you watch guys like Justin Fields.
Look at Derek Carr, man. Did you see Derek Carr?
Absolutely.
I'm watching the defensive, and it's like what I would say is he gets skinny when the pocket starts. Derek Carr will get skinny and hop step up, and that gets him out of the range of those edge rushers and into that middle of the pocket, and then he can step up. It gives him that extra second and a half.
Lamar is very good at that too.
Yeah, and Tannehill doesn't have the agility now. And honestly, the confidence in his body, it looks like, to make that little step up. He never really was good at that's always been since college. That has been an issue with Ryan Tannehill, is he doesn't have great pocket awareness, doesn't have real functional and smooth pocket mobility. And it's probably because he was a former wide receiver. There's a lot of natural feel type things to playing quarterback that Tannehill doesn't do well. He doesn't anticipate throws super well. He likes to see his guy and hammer it in. It's not like he can kind of envision where it's going to go and the gaps in the defense. He wants to see it and throw it. And the same thing with the pocket mobility. He doesn't really feel pressure very well. He's not real nimble moving up, and he's never been good at that stuff. He doesn't have some of the natural quarterback things that you see week to week, the instincts, because he was a former wide receiver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that all plays into it. And now that he's older, those things are getting magnified and they're under a microscope, because it's so obvious to all of us, oh man, he can't move the same, can he? We all saw it. So
very unnatural throwing motion. I've always said that. Not fluent at all with his motion.
Compare it to Levis. I'm not going to act like Levis is awesome or anything. He could be a bum too, or never be anywhere close to as good as Tannehill was, even with what we know Tannehill is. But still, he throws the football like a natural person passing the ball. So I get what you're saying there.
I always compared Tannehill's throwing motion to him trying to pull back a bow and arrow. It's very it's very animated. It's coming. When your natural quarterbacks, even guys like Brock Purdy, you watched on Sunday, he was slinging it sidearm, looking like a pro.
It's like Tannehill was taught to do it, and these other guys were born to do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. My next question to you, Tyler, when you were talking earlier, I heard you bring up the term rookie when spoken about, moving on from Tannehill, and if the inevitable happens, which we believe is that he's going to get benched. Are you in your mind, are you saying that we should go straight to Levis, or do you think Malik still deserves some time in this year if that benching is coming?
Man, it's such a crazy dynamic, because Malik is all the high end traits that you want in a modern quarterback, but Levis can operationally and functionally do all the stuff that you have to do. If the Titans could put Levis and Malik together into a combo prospect, it would be absolutely absurd. You know what I mean? That would be perfect, but that's not happening. So, I mean, for me, with what I saw in the preseason, you have to say Malik. The problem is we haven't seen enough of Levis to know anything. And maybe the Titans have in practice, but I don't think that they probably have, and they don't really have time to find out anything significant now. They have to let the first team offense play, and someone has to be the scout team quarterback and all of that. So, and Justin Herbert is a quarterback this week that they're playing against. Who should be the scout team quarterback, Malik or Levis? Probably Levis, which means Levis isn't running the Titans offense. You don't get to look at how he runs your offense. He's being used as a scout team player to help the team practice. So it has to be Malik from that standpoint. First up, it has to. I still believe that at the end of the day, Levis will be the better player. And I think a year from now, we're looking at the starting quarterback in 2024. I still think it will be Will Levis. if not for play reasons, for political reasons, just to not look like idiots who wasted picks on a quarterback you didn't need. You know, but first crack at playing, like I said with the preseason, I'll echo it here. Malik deserves to play first. So if they do decide to bench Tannehill, which I'm not saying that is going to happen. I'm just saying what it would need to look like for that to happen. I still, if I had to put money down, wouldn't say it does happen, because Mike Vrabel is going to owe it to the veterans to try to win every game possible. But if they do bench him, I think Malik deserves the first shot.
Tyler, moving on away from the quarterback, because we could talk about the quarterback for 16 games,
yes,
3 months,
episodes over the summer,
1 million episodes, everything. Next
Right.
next thing I really want to get into is the offensive line, because that was a big thing, a new cohesive offensive line in the game. What was your take on them? How do you think they did? I mean, we do have a graphic of their win percentage, I think, Sammy. We have up here. ESPN ranked them fifth best in pass block rate. What was his name? Hubbard. He had the best pass. He had the best win rate as a right tackle in the whole league. So I mean, there was surprisingly some good stuff, especially with Peter Skoronski. I think he laid the wood on Sunday. What are your thoughts on the offensive line?
Well, first I'll start with Peter Skoronski, and let's just do this what it is. You know, I hate to pat myself on the back, but you know what? Actually, I love it. I said the Titans needed to lose to Jacksonville because they needed to secure one of the best offensive linemen in the draft. It was more important than getting a participation trophy for the AFC South. It was more important. And you know what? Peter Skoronski was more important. Peter Skoronski, in his first game as an NFL pro, was the 6th highest rated offensive guard in the NFL per Pro Football Focus. He was the 8th best rated offensive lineman in the entire NFL. The entire NFL, top 10. Great start. I'm not telling you that Skoronski is going to be a top 10 offensive lineman all year from day one, blah, 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 all of that. But I think what it does show us is he's the best offensive lineman the Titans have, and he was worth the draft pick. And Mike Vrabel even said he's fit for this league. He has great play strength. He is just a guy who understands it. He gets it. That was always the key from day one. And where the Titans sat in the draft, the quarterbacks were going, the topper, Paris Johnson Jr. is going, pass rushers are going. For Skoronski to fall to number 11 and literally be a guy who's going to be a starter on the offensive line for 8 years and a solid starter at that, he might even be an all-pro by year 2 or 3. He's already coming out in his very first game and looking excellent. The conversation with the offensive line to me starts with Peter Skoronski, because that's all that really, at the end of the day, we could look back and the Titans could be terrible this year, and we'll look back and be like, well, at least we know Skoronski is a stud at guard. Yeah. That is important. But overall, I think we go back to the philosophical shift the Titans made here. They went after pass blocking offensive linemen. That's what they went after. Hubbard has been a better pass blocker than a run blocker his career. Daniel Brunskill, you look at Andre Dillard, he's an athletic guy. He's much more suited to be a pass protector and mirror pass rushers than he is to drive guys off the ball. So the fact that the Titans offensive line was able to, they settled in. They really did. Early it was rough, but they settled in late in that game and gave Tannehill pockets.
Yeah, only 3 sacks.
Yeah, you're seeing it. You're seeing it shown in the analytics that you guys just showed up. We're talking about it right here with the individual players. This offensive line is going to be better at pass blocking than last year. We know that. So if they can be good in run blocking, which they were pretty good. You guys watched Tajay Spears, 9 yards a carry. Derrick Henry was rolling, and then, they kind of slowed that down. Yeah, the offensive line looks like it's going to be improved. And that is something that we should all be very optimistic about and excited about, because you go back and watch. I did an article on alltitans.com about this on Tuesday. Every other aspect, we're talking about the offensive line now. You look at some of the separation analytics for the Titans wide receivers. They were number 6 in the NFL in separation created, or giving the quarterback open receivers. They were number 6 in the NFL in week 1 and creating open situations where they weren't perfectly covered. So the wide receivers did get open more than people thought they did. The offensive line did block better than people thought they did. We know that Derrick Henry and Spears were able to get yards on the ground. The defense, again, the defense is great, and they get their backs broken by a terrible offense. But the defense held the Saints to 16 points, and the only touchdown that they gave up was off an interception in their own territory. Yep. So Literally every aspect. Arden Key was the number one rusher in the entire NFL in pressures this week. Danico Autry is the only person in the top 20 in pass rush win rate as an edge and an interior guy. It's like the Cincinnati game all over again. Every aspect of the Tennessee Titans team was really good, or at least good on Sunday. Except Ryan Tannehill, and we can't even blame the offensive coordinator anymore because Tim Kelly, I'm putting out an article later this week on it with some film. Tim Kelly schemed up some amazing stuff that Tannehill just ruined. So it's not even the OC this time.
Yeah, I mean that almost
was good except Tannehill.
Yeah, that almost makes it even more alarming to see now statistically that this offensive line was spectacular, especially in the second half. Even from a blind eye, it looked like he had more time in the second half. Then you come to find out the protection throughout the entire game was fairly decent. And I'm being sarcastic. It was really good. So yeah, that's very alarming. And finding because immediately my instant reaction was to fault Tim Kelly just a little bit in the fact that we had a run game going and he wasn't leaning on that when his attempt to be more pass heavy wasn't working until I find out that realistically, which I kind of had a smidge of a sort of thought of it anyway, that he had the time and he really was just shitting the bed. And Tim Kelly knew the opportunities were available and he just couldn't capitalize. So
can we just talk about the reality of the Titans offense that people just still refuse to accept? And it's that the explosiveness in the passing game is way more important than Derrick Henry. Like, that is what made the Titans offense special, is the explosive plays in the passing game. The Titans had Derrick Henry. Exactly. It's Derrick Henry. We saw the Titans rush for just as many yards in the second half of the season in 2021 as they did with Derrick Henry in the first half. Like, the yards per carry, the efficiency in the run game with Foreman and Hilliard off their couches was about the same. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Derrick Henry is unimportant, because the threat of Derrick Henry in the Titans run game is what opens up a lot of those explosive plays. But the reality is those explosive pass plays are far more important. So everybody's mad that the ball didn't go to Derrick Henry and but the Derrick Henry run game did its job, because the play action opportunity on the deep crosser to Chikakonkwo. Oh, Tannehill throws a pick. Oh, you got a wide open wheel route to Chikakonkwo off play action down the sideline or off the trick play. Oh, you get the play action with Tajay Spears in jet motion, mirroring plays that they had run in the second and first quarter. And Tajay Spears is up the sideline with a wide open wheel route. Like, they wanted it. This game could have been, oh, Derrick Henry was efficient. They didn't bury him with carries. They got the job done. The Titans still created 3 or 4 explosive passing plays worth 20, 30, 40 yards and some long touchdown passes, while only giving Derrick Henry 15 to 17 to 18 carries, under 20. Like, Tim Kelly had the recipe for a perfect, efficient offensive day that got the job done, and Tannehill literally blew it. Like, my thumbnail after the game was Tannehill blows it. And after watching the film, it's even more certified. So we can be mad that Derrick Henry didn't get the ball more, but the reason you give Derrick Henry the ball is to create those explosive opportunities in the passing game. And they did it. They did the job. So they didn't need to give Derrick Henry the ball more. They needed to hit the explosive plays that were created by Derrick Henry's presence. And they didn't do that. So that is ultimately more important than just because they could have fed. The reason you feed Derrick Henry the ball is to create those explosive opportunities. So you can give Derrick Henry the ball 5 to 6 more times, but the only reason that matters is because it creates the explosive plays, which they missed on anyway. So I'm not as upset now after watching the tape. I'm not as upset now with the Derrick Henry usage, because it did its job and Tannehill wasn't able to execute.
I'm glad you were talking about explosive plays, because coming into this game against the Chargers, it's in my eyes, and especially with you guys, it's a must-win game, because you could possibly be going to the Browns 0-2, and then you're going to come home to the Bengals. So you're looking at 0-4 right in the face. So we got a kind of a desperate Chargers team coming into Nashville. Sammy, throw up the graphic of what their stats were for their secondary. You want to talk about explosive plays over here? The Chargers defense allowed 536 total yards 30 first downs. So we have every single opportunity to throw all over these guys if the game plan's there, Ryan Tannehill can do it. I mean, because they have a little bit of a weak secondary. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not Tua. We don't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but we do have Traylon Burks and we have DeAndre Hopkins. You just can't force the ball to these guys. Okay, scheme it up. We had Burks wide open, Chig wide open, Spears. We talk about it the whole time. We have every opportunity to knock these guys off. How do you see us attacking the Chargers this week in virtually a must-win game?
Well, I think that I called this like a get-right game, a revenge game really for Tannehill, because who Tannehill get hurt against last year? It was the Chargers. Yeah. So Tannehill everybody's crapping on Tannehill. He got hurt against the Chargers last year. This is a great opportunity for him to get revenge against a pass defense that's obviously vulnerable. Now, one thing we have to acknowledge is the Titans don't have Mike McDaniel calling plays on offense, and they don't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver. And honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but they don't have Tua at quarterback. I was an anti-Tua guy, and I just look wrong. So probably going to have to take the walk of shame on that one by the end of the year, the way things are going and how last year was. But either way, the Titans don't have the offense that the Dolphins do, but they don't need to put up the offense that the Dolphins did. They could take about 75% of that, and it would be one of the best days we've had in years, right? Yep. So to me, I think it's all about attacking the middle of the defense for the Chargers. Kenneth Walker, I keep saying Kenneth Walker like the running back. It's Kenneth Murray, the linebacker, is truly one of the worst starters in the entire NFL on either side of the ball. I think he had like a 30 coverage grade. The film was worse. He's just getting attacked. Former first-round pick. I think it was out of Oklahoma. But Kenneth Murray is somebody they have to attack over the middle of the field. I think those classic Tennessee Titans play action, crosser over the middle plays. We need to see a bunch of that this week.
Where have they been?
Well, I know Todd Downing was just allergic to him last year. So hoping Tim Kelly is doing some things where he's creating layers on top of what people expect us to do. Fake the crosser, hit to the blaze out, different things like that. The interception Malik Willis threw off of Josh Wiley's hands that everybody fought over for weeks. That was an incredibly creative counter to what the Titans typically run in their play action pass game. So Tim Kelly, I'm happy with, and I'm optimistic about what he can do, but the Titans have to attack over the middle of the field against this Chargers pass defense. They're just not good enough. Let me see. Michael Davis, Alohi Gilman, their safety, Eric Kendricks, another guy at linebacker. Like, the Titans should just be attacking the middle of the field over and over and over again against the Chargers. And that's where Tannehill has been most comfortable throwing the ball over recent years. So hopefully that's a perfect marriage, but they just need to attack the middle of the field, and hopefully Tannehill can get right against a bad pass defense.
He can't just force it to DeAndre Hopkins, because like Ariel said, it looks like he was just forcing the ball to DeAndre Hopkins in triple and double cover. I don't care that Nuke is the best receiver on a team. If there's somebody else that's open on an undercut or a 5, throw it to him. Nuke doesn't have to get the ball every play. They're like I said, not Spears. There's 2 plays. I think it was on your Twitter feed that you broke it down, and Traylon Burks was wide open on a seam, and he totally missed him standing in the pocket. Like, I mean, it's week 1, so let's not overreact all the way. But
well, there are things we can monitor. You know what I mean? I always say I'm a big guy on like making plans, and people are like, dude, you're getting too far ahead of yourself. But me, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you started. Yeah. So like, I like to, track what happened here with Tannehill in week 1. It doesn't mean that it won't change, but it's still good that we all know, hey, these are signs of physical decline. Hey, these are misreads that he's making. And then if he does those things better, we're all going to be here to be like, hey, look, he's doing it better. He's knocking off the rust. Or the other way, so we have to know where we're at to know what happens next and how to identify it and how to talk about it and what it means, So I'm fully with you on that.
Yeah. Listen, side note as well, this was also the team Tannehill got his first victory as a Titan. So a little cool back and forth between that. Then they hurt him. So, a little back and forth rivalry. It doesn't hurt anything either. I don't think that's in his head. I'm sure he has plenty of demons still in there. So,
and with the fumble at the goal line and the 2-point conversion in London. I mean, there's been a lot of epic Titans Charger games in the last 5 years.
Yep. That London game wasn't that London game at Mariota?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. 2-point conversion
I remember
situation.
The most emotion I've ever seen Marcus give was on that first attempt they called back when he scored the touchdown, he pumped his fist harder than I've ever seen. Then he called it back. They scored again, missed extra point. Rest is history. But listen,
Hey, stiff arming Barry Church and flexing on him has to be
Yeah.
up there too, though. But
Yeah.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. I just want to. That's got to be an honorable mention because I've never seen
yeah.
Marcus do anything like that before.
Yeah, as far as I don't know what the right word is, but like gritty, like really kind of in your face, like showboating. Yeah, that would be the most. But I mean, like raw emotion. He
Right.
was so out of his mind after he jumped into that end zone. But anyway, I digress.
Wish we got more of that from him. I
Yeah.
think if I don't want to do a side branch on Marcus psychology hour, but I think if he had a little bit more of that in your face dog attitude to him, things might be different for him. But hey, he's gonna have more money and an easier, more comfortable life than I'll ever see. So he wanted life. He doesn't care what I have to say about the dog in him. He's gonna go do whatever he wants with his millions of dollars. But
And listen,
just had to mention it.
His parents, really, he's one of the most genuine individuals in the entire NFL, and obviously his parents had a lot to do with that. So it's crazy to say, but it's almost as if he was raised so well that kind of animosity just doesn't live in him. And you can't fault him for that in reality. But I think a lot of us
That's
agree.
a great point, man. This is psychology hour for sure. But I think that if you weren't hungry growing up, are you hungry enough? You know what I mean? And a lot of the guys in the NFL, they didn't have a lot, so they're got a little bit of that in them. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's one or the
like
other.
it.
Either you had nothing and you've got everything to gain, or you've got so much confidence from having everything your whole life that it shaped you into a professional athlete and competitor that is everything you want. Perfect example, Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow, Jay Shiesty, like he embodies what swagger is. Kid came from just your white picket fence American family, but all of that kind of swag and his ego, it worked for him, and now
love it.
Now he embraces it, and it's hard
he's
to
an
dislike
exciting
him.
player.
So
makes me a little sad.
I know.
But
listen though,
one day.
Tyler, listen to me though. Listen to me carefully.
Yeah.
This MF for Will Levis, he has that.
You better hope so. Can
I say something though?
Go ahead.
So did Rosen, Josh Rosen, when he came out, and he was sitting there in the green room.
Josh Rosen looks like freaking Ringo Starr.
When he was in that green room, he had that same look at draft night.
Levis is that try-hard guy. So I'm going to tell a quick story before we get done here. There was a kid on my middle school basketball team, and he's a cross-country kid, not a football player coming to play basketball like the rest of us, cross-country kid. So he just ran all over the place, and that was a sport to him. So he comes to basketball, and we're running sprints and suicides. Who's winning? The kid who just ran for 3 months is his sport. You know what I mean? And he's one of these guys who, during a game one time, he was guarding the inbounds pass, and he's jumping and flailing his arms and legs everywhere, and he steps on the out-of-bounds line. Technical foul. The referee says, take a step back, sir. Very next inbounds, he does it again and gets ejected. Like, he's trying so hard to, just block the inbounds pass that he's stepping on the line and getting ejected from a middle school basketball game. He's trying to outrun everybody in the sprints and stuff. He's a try-hard. Joe Burrow is the coolest dude around. Will Levis is like the try-hard, weird kid who's, getting too fired up at practice. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't be what we all hope that he is, but I just think it's not fair to put them in the same category as dudes, because you've met dudes like Will Levis and you've met dudes like Joe Burrow, and they are not the same.
So let me ask you a question, Tyler. Would you agree that you can make an argument that Tom Brady was kind of like that try-hard kid? Over the top emotional all the time, whether things were going good or bad, through tantrums. But the bottom line is, when everything was on the line, the veins got icy, and that's really,
that's fair. He Tom Brady lived 2 lives in the NFL, so the first part of it, he was that try hard, working too hard, overachiever, blah blah blah, and then I mean, once he had the ACL, I think he was switched out with an Android, but he looks totally different than his rookie year if you look up the pictures. I'll let you figure out how he got looking so different on your own. But Tom Brady did go from like that weird game manager, try hard, outsmart everybody quarterback into like the Joe Cool type guy. You're right. But all I would say is,
well, 4 Super Bowls will
Tom
do
Brady.
that to you.
Yeah, it's Tom Brady. So
And
I don't know.
a supermodel wife.
Yeah.
Levis is on his way there.
Yeah, he's got no. He's got a supermodel girlfriend, but that's besides the point. So does Ryan Tannehill, and that hasn't done us a damn thing. He's
Cool,
got a
rich,
hot
athletic
life.
dudes get good-looking women.
Yeah,
I mean, what
believe it or
can we
not,
say? It's a
breaking
tale
news.
as old as time.
Breaking news.
I know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things shape up. This game in Nashville is going to be an absolute must-win, in my opinion. God forbid if Jacksonville were to beat Kansas City and us to lose, it'll be a dark day in hell for this fan base on this application that we call X now. So we'll see how things shape up. Tyler, can't thank you enough for taking the time with us tonight. Make sure let us know where we can find your work as always.
Yeah, sure. Monday through Friday, and usually a 6th episode throughout the week. Locked on Titans, any podcast app, on YouTube, of course, and then write for Sports Illustrated, alltitans.com. Ton of film breakdowns I'll be doing throughout the season. Put out the Tannehill one today. And then you can follow me at Tic Tac Titans, where I get wild and say a bunch of crazy stuff.
As we all do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's the best part.
Absolutely. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us. You're a true brethren of this community with all you do with breaking stuff down. And obviously your passion goes real deep with the amount of work you put into this team. So we can't thank you enough for taking some time out with us. And hope to have you on again, maybe on happier terms. We'll have some better things to talk about.
Yeah, when the Titans are 4-2 going into the bye, baby, after a win against
go.
the Ravens and the Bengals. Let's go. It's happening. I'll see you then.
Little soft tissue injury to Ryan Tannehill. Soft tissue. But no, I'm kidding. I don't want that. I would never wish that on anyone. But if you got the flu, that would be a shame if you got the flu. Not COVID, just the flu. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna close you out tonight. Thanks so much for joining us, Tyler. And that was Tyler Rowland on Locked On Titans podcast. Thanks again for him coming in on tonight. I mean, really, I'm glad he kind of shared the same sentiment with me, Vin, and halfway with you. The leash is real thin. But there is a in my opinion, there is a emotional fan way to look at this, and then there's an actual reality way to look at this that I think some people will still view as a crazy emotional fan. The crazy emotional fan version is Malik Willis this week, which is not going to happen, but that's what my crazy emotional over-the-top fan wants. Done. Absolutely done. But the reality of the situation, which again, some people might think is still crazy, but in my opinion, the actual reality of the situation is halftime on Sunday. If he looks like he did second half, that's it. Done. Plug. You had another week to prepare.
In a must-win game at home.
Must-win game in a playoff race that we all know is just the division, and that's it. I don't care about Rodgers going down. We're still not getting a wild card because there's still going to be 3 teams in the AFC East that are possibly Dolphins, Bills, and I'm not counting the Jets out with Zach Wilson. You can't now after what you saw. So at halftime, if he looks like dog shit, that's a wrap. That's it. You did it to Mariota. Just keep the same energy. This would be game 7 we're coming up on now of bullshit, awful Tannehill. The jig's up. I don't know. I want your opinion too on, your emotional fan and what you think the reality is.
I mean, I told you what my opinion was. I was 50% on him. I don't know how I feel about pulling him in the second half, but if he looks like crap in the first half, like he did, by all means, you have to do something. Okay. There has to be a spark of something. So I ran a poll on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, because I was just in a mood. I didn't know what to say. And I did a poll that in the last 8 games, we're 0-8. Ryan Tannehill is now 0-5 in his last. Yep. And I said, what's your leash on Tannehill? 4 games after the bye right now, or he'll turn it around. 42% of the people, and there was 323 votes. I mean, not crazy amount, but 42 people said
a lot of people.
4 games, though.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Games.
Folks, it's going to be too late in 4 games. It's going to be. If the Jaguars get a 2-game lead going into the bye week, I think it's a wrap.
And we're 0-4 going into, I think it's the Colts. Yeah, I think we play the Colts in week 5.
Jacksonville already has a division win. They're a better team with Ryan Tannehill under center. It's so evident now. I mean, did you see them play? They look pretty freaking good, and they're only going to get better. Ridley looked pretty damn good. Anyway, this is, you guys, 4 games. Then okay, fine. 4 games. Then again, the rest of the season is solely to prepare one of the 2 guys for next year, or to look like shit so we can get the guy in the draft next year. That's it. Fine.
Are you happy with a 2-2 in 4 games?
Well,
running away with it.
My emotional fan in me wants Tannehill gone now, done. But the reality of it is, yes, if we go 2-2 after 4 games, I'm still gonna have a sliver of hope. But he's never doing it, man. He's never gonna do it. He's never going to do it.
It's very hard after what we saw on Sunday. It's very hard.
It's so hard. And you would think in reality, again, not happy anyone got hurt, but now that Aaron Rodgers is out of the situation, that's one less team in the AFC, technically, unless Zach Wilson is the truth now, which I don't think he is, that we're going to have to worry about. But it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's been so many games that if Derrick Henry doesn't have it, whether because the defense stops him or we don't get it going, like you just saw with the Saints, we never win. We never win when Derrick Henry doesn't play well. You're not going to win a title when your only avenue to a win is when your running back plays well. If one Titan fan watching this can show me an instance where Derrick Henry doesn't go crazy and we still win, then I'll back off. But folks, I'll save you the time. It doesn't exist. It doesn't. All these other teams in the AFC have quarterbacks who can win you games. We got to rely on the fucking running back. How many years are you going to wait? I'm done waiting. Let's start finding out what the fucking situation is so we can be in the mix like all these other teams that are shit and now are great.
Listen, I understand like the compassion and everything, and I do see it because you want the young quarterback to come in and step in.
He doesn't have to be young.
It doesn't. Well, we have 2 young guys. You have Willis and you have Malik. So you have those 2 guys. Well,
I want Manning.
We all wanted that, and we're not going back to the. I texted you after the show. I don't know why you even went back there because I even went down more into a pit because we could have had Brady, but we're not going there. Yep. These guys, they have to be the future if they are, and Ryan Tannehill doesn't turn it around, because if not, they're 2 wasted draft picks that we got screwed on.
Exactly.
And now, like I said, I don't see it in those 2 quarterbacks on our roster. That's why I think the quarterback is in next year's class. And are you going to do that and draft 3 straight quarterbacks in 3 straight years? That'll makes you look like a fool.
Absolute fool. That's why, folks, wake up. There's no other option here. You're going to fuck yourself, because what you're going to do is you're going to keep this guy for the rest of the year. I already said this on Twitter today. You're going to keep this guy for the rest of the year. Then you're going to go into next year with one of these 2. By default, they need a full year to contend if they hit their ceiling. Thank God, hopefully. And then if they don't, then you're screwed, because then you're missing next year's quarterback class. And now you're screwed. These guys, this is the only year you're going to be able to really truly find out technically if either of these 2 guys have it, because it's one or the other. It's either this year's draft for a quarterback or who we have now. If you don't play either of them this year, you're not going to know. It's just, I don't understand how these people don't see how this story is shaping up. It's going to be a nightmare. I hope everyone realizes it. God forbid Levis and Malik aren't the answer. We're doomed. How many I don't know what
Well,
2 years quarterback class is going to look like.
I don't know if Vrabel and Rand are going to actually let that happen, especially going into a new stadium. You can't go into a new stadium with no quarterback. They're definitely not doing it. Even if those two guys are not the quarterbacks, they're not. A trade will happen. I mean, but we're getting way, way, way in the future right now. So we got to
really
stay
not because
we got to stay the course
6
right now, though. We got to stay the course.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Ryan Tannehill turns it around. If not, we're in trouble. And you got to start one of the young guys. But, I mean, we got a very important game on Sunday with the Chargers, possibly having a guest. We have another show with a breakdown, our game picks, all of our sick picks, our locks of the week. Vinny will be back on for that show. So, but there is something to monitor, though. I did see that Eckler is possibly hurt. Don't know about that, but that would be huge. That would be huge.
Just like Kamara being out was supposed to be hurt.
Yeah, but
be huge.
I do. But that's a big part of their offense, though. So we're
Kamara's a big part of New Orleans' offense.
He is, but
and they still threw all over us with no fucking run. With no run. I mean, listen again. The defense is excellent. They did a great job. Stopping
containing 16 points. Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, not for nothing. They had no running game. Well, why were they just? They still had a ton of yards. Anyway. You're right. Let's take it a day at a time. I'm completely done with my belief that Tannehill can make us a contender this year, no matter what he does from here on out. I already made that clear. But I'm a Titan fan above everything else, so we're gonna ride this wave out, and we're still gonna hope they win every single freaking game. But if they don't, you guys all know where I stand, and that's I'm comfortable, with what I've said so far, and I'm gonna stand behind it. So. We'll see, guys. As Jarrett mentioned, we'll have more to come as far as breakdowns, as far as picks and whatnot. I think we did pretty good on our locks.
Yeah, I think Sammy will probably get that up on
we'll talk about that on Friday's show. Yeah. But yep, everyone. I hope everyone has a great night, great day, great week. Obviously, as always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure you turn that bell on so you know when we're on, when we're going live. We're gonna be
downloads up.
Get those downloads up. Yes, absolutely.
Spotify, Apple.
Absolutely. That's how we're going to grow. And we've gotten so much great feedback from everyone, and how much they've loved the show and how we break things down. And we're so happy to hear all those things. And we're just trying to build this audience of family up. So any help you guys can give us would be appreciated. Again, hope everyone has a great week this week. And as always, tighten up. Sammy, send me on out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.